After returning home, Charlie threw the encounter with Elsa out the window. However, after calming down, he suddenly remembered that he hadn't refined the medicine he had promised Douglas Simmons and the Song family. For them, the medicine was simply the most amazing medication the world could provide. But in Charlie's opinion, it was merely one of the most common medicines in the Nine Heavens profound book. If he could refine and produce the more powerful and magnificent medicines recorded in the book, he wondered if it could bring back the dead, or even make someone immortal. Despite its possible miracle, those magnificent drugs required a lot of exotic and rare ingredients, some of which he hadn't even heard of. Most importantly, a lot of them were primers that needed aura to refine into usable materials. He was just a beginner in producing medicine, and there's still a long way to go. Hence, he needed to tread slowly and cautiously. Nevertheless, Charlie was willing to refine and produce medicine for them because he wanted to accumulate more experience in this department and enhance his skills. He didn't have the ingredients for the medicine in his hands, but it was the Song family's responsibility to look for them since they wanted him to do the job. Thus, he took out his phone and called Warnia. Lately, Warnia had been contemplating how to keep in touch with Charlie and spend more time with him. Her grandfather had stated that whoever was lucky enough to have Charlie as their son-in-law would have the family prosper and be successful. It was nothing but a huge waste for Charlie to be with an insignificant family like the Wilsons. The best way was to make a powerful and extraordinary pair. Only the most prominent family in society was eligible for a son-in-law as extraordinary as Charlie. How could a godlike figure be with a menial commoner? Her grandfather's words lingered in her mind. The more she thought about it, the stronger her passion towards Charlie grew with a tinge of longing. She wanted to call Charlie more often, meet each other more often, and also keep in touch more often. But she was afraid that Charlie might notice her too obvious actions. Warnia had always been a proud and elegant lady. She could be regarded as the noble princess that was everyone's focus in Orris Hill. The daughters of other families were dull in comparison with her existence. She was beyond the reach of all the men in Orris Hill. Warnia had never had any feelings for any man until now. Charlie was the first. Unfortunately, he was a married man, a live-in son-in-law. Warnia found it to be very ironic. She was uncertain and doubtful as to how to make a move on Charlie and develop something passionate out of it. This time, Charlie's face occupied her mind. Just as she was daydreaming about Charlie, he received a call from him. She shrieked excitedly like a child getting candy. She answered the call, and her voice was slightly shivering when she asked, "Hi, Master Wade. How can I help you?" Charlie chuckled softly and said, "Miss Song, I plan to start refining the medicine tomorrow, but I need some ingredients. I hope you can help me out with it and send them over to me." Warnia was absolutely thrilled when she heard that Charlie was finally going to produce the medication. The Song family had been eagerly waiting for Charlie's miracle medicine, but they hadn't heard any news from him, and they dared not to urge him. After all, he had promised to give it to them for free. How could they rush him, albeit his generosity? Warnia quickly said, "Don't worry, Master Wade. Send me the list and I'll immediately find them, the best quality of them all, and send them over to you." "That's great, thanks," Charlie said with a smile. "Remember to prepare more of them. I have other uses for them." Charlie had all the money in the world for those ingredients, but he needed a reliable channel to get them from. Good medical ingredients are like fine pieces of antique relics that are not easy to come across. For things that were precious, money was not the main issue, but a legitimate way to get them was instead. His foundation in Orris Hill was very shallow compared to the Song family's influence and power in the city. They would have their trustworthy resources in every aspect here. As soon as Warnia ended the call, she received a list of medicinal ingredients from Charlie. Immediately afterward, she called Graham Quinton. Although the Quinton family was not as prominent as the Song family, their main trade and business revolved around antiquities, cultural relics, and Chinese herbal medicine. Even Charlie didn't know that Graham was literally the largest supplier of medicinal ingredients in the entire southern region. This was mainly because Graham never did over-the-counter business, but rather directly dealt with the major pharmaceutical factories as well as chain pharmacies. He only dealt with wholesale business, not retail. Warnia recounted Charlie's list on the phone and said, "Mr. Quinton, may I know if you can get these ingredients for me?" I want the best quality in a large quantity. A thought struck his mind as he listened to the items she asked for and then asked, Miss Song, may I know if these ingredients are for Master Wade? Yes, Warnia admitted honestly due to their friendly acquaintance. Mr. Quinton, you should have heard about how Master Wade saved my grandfather's life a few days ago. He was generous enough to give our family some magical medicine, so I'm preparing the ingredients for him. No problem, Miss Song. I'll get it ready in no time and send them directly to Master Wade. Mr. Quinton, I don't think it will be appropriate for you to send the items to him. Miss Song, since we're friends, I'll be honest with you. I'd also like to ask Master Wade for a magical elixir for emergency purposes, and I wish to do so when I send him the ingredients. Warnia pondered upon his remarks. Even if she didn't let Graham send the items personally, he would visit Charlie for the medicine too, so she might as well do him a favor with the delivery. So she chuckled and said, Oh, I see. Of course I don't have any opinion on it, but Mr. Quinton, please take a second look before you deliver the ingredients to Master Wade. I don't want any errors. Ha ha, definitely, Miss Song. I'll provide only the best to Master Wade. Okay then, please get ready for the materials and deliver them to Master Wade. Thank you very much. Graham almost squealed like a little girl when he ended the call. His daughter, Aurora, the hot and stunning lady, asked out of curiosity when she saw his father giggling excitedly, Dad, what are you doing there? You're so weird. Graham laughed out loud. Good news! What is it? It's Master Wade. Graham was so excited his tongue got twisted. Aurora's heart skipped a beat. Master Wade? The amazing Master Wade? She asked. Her face blushed slightly. Dad, Master Wade, What about him? Graham blurted out, Master Wade is going to produce magical elixir. Miss Song asked me to prepare medicinal ingredients for him. I'm going to ask him for one, too. Ever since she had been taught a lesson by Charlie, Aurora had thoroughly realized that humbleness and modesty were crucial, as there was always someone better than she was. When she learned about Charlie's supernatural abilities, admiration and shame started to root inside her heart towards him. She was ashamed because she intended to duel with him, not knowing what she was up against. Nevertheless, girls with feisty and lively characteristics like herself were easily attracted to a much stronger man because this kind of man was the only one who could subdue their feistiness. Therefore, from then on, Aurora regarded Charlie as her biggest and the most admirable idol. When she heard that Charlie wanted to produce a magical elixir, she exclaimed, Wow, I didn't know that Master Wade can even make medicine. That's incredible. Graham sighed. Frankly, I don't know how powerful Master Wade is. We've only seen scraps of it. I heard that a few days ago, even the genius Dr. Douglas Simmons paid homage to Master Wade's medical skill. His old injury had made tremendous progress thanks to Master Wade's medicine. Oh my goodness! Aurora's eyes widened in shock and her jaws almost dropped to the floor. She had a knack or two about traditional Chinese medicine since her family was involved in the medicinal ingredients business. Douglas Simmons was one of the top Chinese medicine masters in the country. He could be considered as the top expert in terms of seniority, which made booking an appointment with him extremely difficult even for prominent leaders and tycoons. She had never expected that the young Master Wade was not only skillful, but his skills were recognized by an experienced master like Douglas. Aurora felt that her heart was filled with fascination and adoration all over again towards Charlie. A man with his abilities was the ideal partner that women would dream to be with, especially a stubborn and influential woman like herself. She would only surrender to such a powerful man willingly. Thus, her heart was beating wildly as she thought about him. Graham was a little stunned when he saw her daughter's face turning into a shade of red. Then he realized that his daughter seemed to have a little bit of a crush for Charlie. Something was playing in his mind. He cleared his throat and said, Aurora, I'll go back to the office to get the ingredients. When they are ready, you'll send them to Master Wade tomorrow morning. Me? Aurora asked in surprise. Why me? Didn't you say that you want to go? Graham chuckled. You're about the same age as Master Wade. It's easier for young people to mingle well than me. He paused for a short while before continuing. Well, frankly speaking, although Master Wade is very powerful and skillful, he is a very low-key person and has been the live-in son-in-law of the Wilson family for several years. Aurora nodded. Yes, I heard about it too, but I don't get it. Why would he be the lowly live-in son-in-law despite all his powers and abilities? They can just get married normally if they love each other so much. Why would he lower himself to marry into the family? Graham sighed and said, "This is where Master Wade is unpredictable and mysterious. There's nothing to reproach if they are genuinely in love, but I've heard people say that he and Claire Wilson have not consummated their marriage. Claire's mother told people that he can't even sleep on the same bed as Claire at home. He has to sleep on the floor." "What?" Aurora was shocked. "They let Master Wade sleep on the floor. They are too much." "That's because they don't know how awesome Master Wade is. In my opinion, I think it might be one of the ways for Master Wade to cultivate his power. Many people in the world practice asceticism for various reasons." "Oh, I see," Aurora nodded. "Master Wade is really amazing." Graham put on a sullen face and said earnestly, "Darling, before long, Master Wade will be so successful that he'll spread his wings and soar into the sky like a proud eagle. Until then, all the families in Oris Hill know. Even families across the country will curry favor with him. They'll send their most beautiful and charming daughters into his embrace. Baby, you have to seize the opportunity when you deliver the materials to him." "Huh." Aurora blushed a timid red. "Dad, what are you talking about? I don't understand. What opportunity?" "Yes, go on with your act." Graham squinted at her and teased, "I can see that you admire him very much, don't you?" Aurora lowered her head shyly, her face now as red as a cherry tomato. She nodded slightly. Graham continued, "I have a hunch that a real master like Master Wade will not stay in the small den of the Wilson family for too long. One day he'll leave them, so you must act fast. Establish a good relationship with him as soon as possible. You can even start building the foundation of your feelings." Then Graham looked towards the sky and sighed. "If our family is able to get an amazing son-in-law like Master Wade, our family's fortunes will prosper and flourish in the next century. At that point, we'll realize our ancestors' aspirations and make the Quinton family the top in the country. Our ancestors will be so proud and pleased with the family's achievement." Aurora shuddered when she heard her father's determination and wiped off the shyness on her face. Her father was right. This was not as simple as love and passion. This was the key for the family to break through the cursed chain of fate and change their fortune. It was such a precious and rare opportunity for their family to change their fortune. Many families had flourished and disappeared within a span of a century, but there were also many families that had survived a century without being able to progress further. The Quinton family was the latter. If they could grab the chance and ride Charlie's bandwagon into success, they would prosper like a super family. This was really an excellent opportunity that might not come in a century. Extraordinarily, the chance seemed to descend into his hands. If he could marry his daughter to Charlie and make him his son-in-law, the Quinton family could change their family fortune and blossom. Gosh! The strong sense of mission in running towards Charlie right away had already set her heart. Therefore, she hurriedly said, "Dad, go ahead and prepare the ingredients. I'll deliver them to Master Wade tomorrow." Graham nodded knowingly and said, "Put on a nice, pretty dress and a little makeup. Although my daughter is not Aphrodite, you're definitely a gorgeous woman. You'll be even more dashing if you dress up." Aurora blushed shyly again, but she nodded and said in a serious tone, "Dad, don't worry. I won't let you down. Tomorrow, when you see Master Wade, tell him that the Quinton family respects him very much and will always be at his service whenever he needs our assistance. Besides, tell him that we've been in the medicinal ingredient business for nearly a century. Whenever he needs anything, he can just tell us and we'll fulfill his orders. Moreover, please ask him if he can give us a magical elixir. We will be very grateful for it. I believe that he will not refuse your request when you say that." Early the next morning, Charlie was about to go out to the market when he received a call. It was Aurora, the Quinton family's hot pepper. Aurora's coquettish voice resonated through the phone. "Master Wade, are you at home now?" "Yes, I am. Why? How may I help you?" "My dad has asked me to deliver some medicinal ingredients to you, and he said that it's Miss Song order. May I know if it is a good time to visit you now? I'll come over if it's a convenient time for you." Claire was out early, busy with her new office, while Jacob had gone out with Elaine to the Thompson First Mansion to check the progress of the renovation. Charlie was alone at home right now, so he replied, "Okay, come over then." "Okay, I'll be there soon." A few minutes later, Charlie heard a knock on the door. He opened the door and saw Aurora. She was wearing a beige dress, her long, wavy hair cascading over her shoulder, and her cheeks painted with a pinkish, timid blush. She looked extremely beautiful and ladylike today with a piece of big luggage in her hand. Master Wade, hi, I'm Aurora Quinton. Do you remember me?" Aurora stuttered, very nervous and agitated. She tossed and turned all night the night before as her father's remark about Master Wade's importance to the future of their family had been continuously lingering on her mind. Charlie was the only image that kept appearing in her mind. She was a blossoming youth, after all. They would love to have a handsome, rich, and capable man as a husband. She looked around and realized that there was no one in the world who was on par with Charlie. He was the absolute candidate for a perfect husband. Even if her father didn't urge her to get in touch with Charlie, she was already attracted to him. Charlie had no idea why Aurora was so nervous. He remembered the last time he saw her, she was still the feisty and savage young lady who wanted to challenge him. Why did she turn over a new leaf today? It was as if the feisty hot chili pepper had suddenly turned into a refreshing and juicy cucumber. He asked, curiously, "What's going on with you today? Why are you so different from your usual self?" Aurora mumbled timidly, "Master Wade, I'm sorry for being so ignorant and pompous last time. I hope you can forgive me." Charlie smiled. Wow, impressive. He then turned around and said, "Don't just stand by the door, come on." Aurora nodded anxiously and carefully dragged the luggage into the house. Charlie was quite surprised to see her carrying the luggage with great effort. She was a strong woman who was very fit and athletic, and some brawny guys were not even at her level. From the exhausted looks on her face, it seemed that the luggage was very heavy. He asked curiously, "What's in the luggage? Why is it so heavy?" "These are the medicinal ingredients my father prepared for you. They're top-quality ingredients that you can never find in other parts of the world." Then, she placed the luggage on the living room's floor and opened it. It was all the best medicinal ingredients laid out in the huge luggage. Some of them were so rare that Charlie couldn't even buy them. Bewildered, Charlie looked at Aurora and asked, "Where did your father get so many wonderful ingredients?" "Well, frankly speaking, our family owns a diversified range of business, one of them being medicinal materials. Our ancestors were medicinal material merchants since the late 19th century, and we had our own delivery team that gathered the best medicinal materials from all over the country and sold them to the rich and famous in the city. We've been in this business ever since." Then she started hurriedly. "Oh yes, my father says that if you need anything in terms of medicinal materials or ingredients in the future, you can tell us directly and we'll do our best to meet your needs." Again, Charlie was astonished. Ever since he accidentally obtained the apocalyptic book, he was mesmerized by its incredible and mysterious contents. There were a lot of methods and prescriptions for the medicine refinery, but there were many medicinal materials that he had never even heard of. He was in the middle of a dilemma about it, but never did he expect the Quinton family to be a family of medicinal material merchants with a century-old heritage. It was indeed sheer luck and fortune. He grinned gleefully and said, "Good, very good. With your family's assistance, my medicine refining will be made much easier." When Charlie mentioned the medicine refining, Aurora pursed her lips and hesitated for a while before she mustered up the courage and knelt on the floor with a thud. Charlie was startled by her sudden action and asked in surprise, "Hey, what are you doing?" Aurora put her hands together and pleaded, "Master Wade, my father heard that you'll be producing a magical elixir and he yearns for it. He reminded me again and again to ask you if you could... Aurora mumbled for a long time but was unable to finish her sentence. Growing under a loving and affluent upbringing, she had always been admired and adored by others since she was a child. She had never begged anyone for anything, not even once. Therefore, this timid young lady was embarrassed to speak up about her real needs. Charlie's curiosity was ticked as he looked at the proud girl who had suddenly become so timid and shy, but he knew exactly what she wanted even if she didn't say it out loud. He smiled and said flatly, "Does your father want the medicine too?" Aurora nodded like a bobbing head doll and said frantically, "But we understand if you don't want to, no worries." Charlie chuckled. The medicine that he was about to refine for Douglas and the Song family was nothing more than the lowest-grade medicines in the 9 Heavens profound apocalyptic book. It was not as magical as they thought it was. It was very easy and effortless to refine the medicine as long as he had the raw materials. In fact, it would be easier than baking. All the Quinton family was asking for was medicine. He couldn't refuse them. Most importantly, he would rely on them to prepare medicinal materials for him. If he could take them in and make them his disciples, getting medicinal materials would be as simple as ABC. Hence, he chuckled at Aurora, who was blushing timidly with red eyes, helped her up and said, "I can give your father the medicine." "Really?" Aurora shrieked in overjoy. "Of course. Even if it's not for your father, I can't say no to such a cute face." Charlie meant it as a joke to ease the mood, but Aurora was blushing even redder after hearing it. Her heart almost jumped out of her body. In order to get on her good side, Charlie smiled and said calmly, "Very well then. Since my fate with your family is intertwined, I'll give your family 2 pieces after I produce it." Be it Graham or Aurora, one magical elixir from Charlie was what they could ask for. It was their biggest jackpot. With the magical elixir, they could revive their family members who were halfway through Heaven's Gate, and it would mean a lot for a wealthy and powerful family like theirs. However, they had never expected Charlie to be so generous as to give them 2. Aurora stared in a daze as if Charlie's word was a form of lightning that had struck her point blank. She looked intensely at Charlie, her eyes covered with foggy mist, and tears as large as beans rolled down her puffy pinkish cheeks. She sobbed as she said, "Master Wade, are you serious?" Charlie laughed. "Why? Do you think I'm just bluffing you?" "Oh, no, no!" Aurora shook her head hurriedly, her tears flying, making the entire scene rather adorable and hilarious. She wiped her tears and said in a sobbing but grateful voice, "I just can't believe it. Thank you so much." Then she bowed respectfully. She believed that if her father was here, he would do the same. Charlie chuckled at her reaction and said, "Miss Quinton, go back and tell your father that I, Charlie Wade, am the man of my words. After the magical medicine is refined, I'll give him 2 of them, but he has to promise to assist me by all means whenever I need something from the Quinton family, and he'd better not ever try to fool me. Do you understand?" Aurora nodded and squealed excitedly, "Okay, I understand, Master Wade. Thank you." Then she said timidly, her face as red as an apple, "Master Wade, you can call me Aurora." Charlie nodded. "Okay, Aurora, come on and get up now." Aurora blurted out, Okay. Then she slowly and gingerly raised to her feet. "We're about the same age. You don't have to be so polite and formal around me." My father had taught me to be polite and respectful towards elders and masters. Master Wade, you have such extraordinary and remarkable powers, and the formality is a sign of respect towards you. Ha! In our previous few meetings, you looked so feisty and hot-tempered like a spoiled little rich girl. I've never imagined that you'd have such a cultivated and knowledgeable side. I'm amazed." Aurora squealed like a deer inside, though she was also a little embarrassed. No, she was neither cultivated nor knowledgeable. Before today, she was still the unruly and feisty little hot pepper. She didn't see eye to eye with anyone, and verbal disputes were part of her usual self. However, when it came to Charlie, she was utterly humble and reverent in addition to her father's ardent expectation of her. Hence, subconsciously, she wanted to be a well-behaved and adorable kitten in front of him. Looking at his watch, he said, "Aurora, thank you for the materials, but I have to go to the market now. Let's go." Aurora realized that she was taking up Charlie's time, so she nodded profusely and said, "I'm sorry for getting in your way, Master Wade." Charlie shook his head with a chuckle. "Don't overthink it. Go home and tell your father that I'll contact him once the medicine is ready." "Okay, Master Wade." Charlie held her arms and helped her to her feet. He kept the materials in the kitchen before heading out. At the gate of the community, Aurora kept on bowing and thanking him before she got into her car and reluctantly left the place. As for Charlie, he returned to his usual deadbeat loser look, dragging a small cart for grocery shopping, a free gift from a washing powder brand, and walked to the small wet market near his home. With her heart still racing and beating violently, Aurora returned home feeling extremely thrilled and overjoyed. Meanwhile, in the Quinton family villa, Graham was waiting for her anxiously. He wondered if Charlie would agree to his request for the magical elixir. After all, the Quinton family was slightly higher ranked than Zeke White's family in terms of social standing, but they paled in comparison with Warnia Song's family. He was afraid that Charlie would look down upon his family, although he vowed to be his loyal follower. Even if the Song family wanted to butter Charlie up, would there be a chance for him to showcase himself with the Song family in the way? As he was pacing back and forth, worried, Aurora came back. He quickly ran out as soon as she parked her car in the villa's courtyard. "Aurora, how did it go? Did Master Wade agree to our request?" Tears drenching her eyes again when she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, Dad, he agreed to our request." "That's wonderful!" Graham howled and laughed loudly. "Dad, Master Wade said that he'll give us 2. "What?" The laugh froze on Graham's face and was replaced with surprise. 2? He wants to give us 2? Master Wade wants to give us 2 magical elixirs? Are you sure? Graham felt as if he had run out of breath all of a sudden. Aurora nodded again and said in an earnest tone, "Yes, he wants to give us 2 magical elixirs. I heard him correctly." "Oh my God!" Tears flooded Graham's eyes as well. "Does it mean that he wants to help our family too?" "Yes. Master Wade said that he wants our full cooperation whenever he has any demands for medicinal materials in the future." "Wonderful, Aurora. That's great news. Master Wade wants to help our family. With his help, our family will prosper and flourish to the next level." Then he asked curiously, "By the way, when he saw you, did he have any special requests?" Abruptly, Aurora's whole face and neck were painted in a shade of bright red. She stuttered shyly, "Master Wade, he said, "Ah, what did he say?" Lowering her head timidly, she mumbled, "Master Wade said that he can't say no to such a cute face." "Ha ha ha!" Graham laughed out loud and exclaimed, "Marvelous, darling, marvelous. It seems that Master Wade will become my son-in-law one day." Aurora muttered shyly, "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Anything is possible, Aurora. Keep up the good work." He was still very excited at this point. With his powerful and magical abilities, his behavior and characteristics must be very different from that of ordinary people. He certainly doesn't care about people's views and moral restraints. Otherwise, why would he stoop so low and be the mediocre Wilson family's son-in-law? So, darling, you must take persistent action. Try to make your move on Master Wade, or better still, have his child. Then our family will thrive on a whole new level. Aurora was so embarrassed that she wanted to hide like an ostrich. She covered her face and uttered, "Dad, what are you talking about? You're embarrassing me." She stomped her foot and ran back to her room. The news about Charlie's refining magical elixir spread like wildfire among several upper-class families in Orris Hill. Zeke White of the White family, Finn Baxendale of Treasure Pavilion, and Orville Hong of Heaven Springs heard the news. They were eager to ask Charlie for the medicine, but Zeke was the only one who really voiced out his request. Zeke was confident to do so since he had expressed his sincerity to Charlie and had even given him a Thompson First villa worth $100 million. He went to Charlie's house in the afternoon since he was at home and asked for the magical elixir as Aurora did. Of course, Charlie didn't turn down his request since he was quite comfortable to give him commands. His son and nephew were a bit stupid and badly behaved, but he had taught them lessons, and now that Zeke was treating him with full respect and docility, there was no need to be stingy over one pill. Zeke bowed and thanked him profusely after getting an affirmative answer. The wealthier a person was, the more afraid they were of death. For them, the magical elixir was like a miracle drug that they wanted to keep for emergency use. After sending Zeke home, Charlie retrieved the ingredients and started to refine a batch of pills. He used only 1/10 of the ingredients to make 30 pills. Moreover, because he had used a full prescription and its quality was much better than the previous batch, the effect was 10 times greater than the old batch. If the previous batch could treat most moderate internal injuries and had some effects on the healing, then this batch could almost cure and heal fatal internal injuries. Even the old and stubborn illnesses that had tormented Douglas for many years could be cured with only half a pill. If someone was being chased by a hitman and was fatally wounded, he could survive by taking the pill. After refining the elixir, Charlie kept 20 for himself and called Warnia, Douglas, Graham, and Zeke to inform them about the news and of his intention to host a banquet at Orville Hong Heaven Springs restaurant tonight to distribute the magical elixir. Everyone was ecstatic when they received the call. Master Wade was truly the real master. He could refine the magical medicine so quickly, almost as fast as making bread. That night, they went to Heaven Springs in advance and awaited Charlie's arrival. He prepared dinner for Claire, Jacob, and Elaine before informing them that he had a reunion with an old friend from the orphanage and slipping out of the house. When he arrived at the entrance of the Heaven Springs, Zeke, Graham, and his daughter Aurora, Warnia, Douglas, and his granddaughter Zyla, as well as Orville, were standing by the door and personally greeted him. Heaven Springs was closed for the day as it was reserved purely for Charlie. They spruced up themselves when Charlie arrived and greeted him graciously. "Welcome, Master Wade." Charlie smiled slightly at them and said, "You guys are early. What time did you arrive?" Warnia smiled politely and said, "Master Wade, it's rare and exclusive for you to organize such a dinner. We must arrive earlier to show our respect." Warnia deliberately dressed up for today's dinner. She put on an elegant and classy black long dress, the tulle lining hugging her perfect and slim curves. It wasn't very revealing or seductive, but had a rather different kind of charm and allure. Her outfit, coupled with her beautiful facial features, radiated her aura to the fullest. Charlie couldn't help stealing a few glances at Warnia, who was truly dashing tonight. If he compared her with Claire, their outlook and body were almost equal, but in terms of temperament, Claire was a few grades beneath Warnia. After all, Warnia was the daughter of the prominent Song family. Her temperament was definitely more classy than an ordinary woman. Meanwhile, Aurora walked towards Charlie and bowed as she blushed again. Unlike the mature and sentimental Warnia, the unique fusion of Aurora's heroic appearance with the aura of a timid young lady was a special blend. Aurora wore light makeup, the natural heroine vibe from her body emphasizing her characteristics like the snow lotus on the iceberg, which was very chilly and alluring. However, after she acknowledged her feelings towards Charlie, she blossomed like a flower under the spring sunshine that added a little tenderness and gentleness in her aura. She looked at Charlie with a layer of pinkish blush painting her cheeks. An alarming gaze appeared on Warnia's eyes. A woman's instinct made her subconsciously see Aurora as a threat. She thought to herself, "Does Aurora Quinton have feelings for Master Wade?" Her grandfather had told her to attract Master Wade's attention and make him the Song family's son-in-law, and she was tempted by the proposal as well. Did Aurora share the same thought as she did? Ignorant to the lady's mental challenge, Charlie wore a light smile on his face and said to everyone, "Remember, you don't have to be so formal and solemn with me. I like things to be casual and spontaneous. I hope you'll treat me the same." They waved their hands quickly to express their disagreement. Graham started in a gracious tone. "With your status and influence, we must treat you with utmost honor and respect, Master Wade. That's the rule." Zeke continued, "Master Wade, you are the supreme master of Newton and the savior of us all. We're willing to wait for you even for an entire day." Douglas put his hands together and said, "Master Wade, your clinical and medicinal skills are extraordinary. Everyone in the field will admire and adore you if they know about your superb skills." Charlie nodded reluctantly and uttered, "All right then, let's not just stand here. Let's go inside." Warnia put up a gentle smile. "Master Wade, this way, please." Charlie walked ahead and the rest of the people followed him, keeping their distance as a token of respect. As they entered the Diamond Suite of Heaven Springs, all the dishes were served on the table. Charlie invited a few guests tonight, but they were all important figures in Oris Hill. If any outsiders saw such an extravagant ensemble, their jaws would definitely drop to the floor. As the owner of Heaven Springs, Orville started in a humble tone. "Master Wade, thank you for choosing Heaven Springs as your dinner venue. This cuisine has been specially prepared for you and your honorable guests. The spread is much more lavish than the usual Diamond Suite menu, while the wines are century-old vintage wines airlifted from France. I hope you'll enjoy tonight's dinner." Orville had long been exposed to Charlie's impressive abilities and skills, but tonight's guests completely shocked him. Warnia Song of the Song family, Graham and Aurora of the Quinton family, Zeke White of the White family, and Douglas Simmons and his granddaughter. All of them were prominent and influential figures in Oris Hill, but they were as harmless and humble as little sheep when they stood in front of Charlie. It made Orvel, who was from the underworld, even more inferior. Orvel Hong didn't dare to speak loudly as the significant figures of the city gathered together. Even though they were in his restaurant, he walked behind everyone and wagged his tail at Charlie like a pug, hoping that he would bat an eye at him. Looking at the extravagant spread and the decoration, Charlie smiled at Orvel and said, "Good job, Orvel. Thank you for the arrangement." Orvel smiled like a child receiving candy and said, "It's my pleasure to serve you. Please have a seat." Charlie nodded and sat in the main seat of the table. Orvel bowed graciously at Charlie and said, "Please just call for me if you need any assistance. I'll be waiting by the door." Then he gingerly exited the suite and stood by the door like a waiter. Orvel Hong was the king of the underworld in Oris Hill, but right now he was nothing but a good-for-nothing thug. He was not yet qualified to sit at the table with Charlie and his distinguished guests. It was already lucky enough for him to be able to talk to Charlie. As soon as Charlie sat down at the main seat, Warnia followed closely and sat to the right of him. They were seated so close to each other with only the small gap between them that Charlie could even smell the faint perfume from Warnia's body. According to the sitting etiquette, the most distinguished person sat at the head seat, while the people next in rank would be seated on both sides of the head seat. Among them, the Song family was the most prominent. Hence, Warnia, as the representative of the Song family, naturally sat next to Charlie. Therefore, the other empty seat next to Charlie had become the hottest chair that everyone was vying for. Graham nudged Aurora lightly and said to Charlie, "Master Wade, my daughter has admired you for a long time, ever since she had the honor to witness your superb power and regards you as her idol. Could you let her sit beside you just so she can get to know you better?" Warnia arched her eyebrows and glanced rather ambiguously at Graham. Zeke, on the other hand, cursed Graham for being a shameless, sly fox by sending his daughter to get closer to Master Wade. He was very frustrated, mainly because he had no daughters. If he had a girl, there's no way Graham could make a move on Master Wade so easily. Aurora's face was as red as a cherry tomato. She was feeling very shy and embarrassed. She admitted that she liked Master Wade, and her father had told her to grab her chance whenever she could, but it was quite embarrassing to do so in front of so many people. Regardless of the embarrassment, Aurora was a straightforward person. She cleared her throat and said, "Master Wade, please allow me to take the seat next to you." Charlie was taken aback and said flatly, "You're welcome to. Please have a seat." Aurora grinned gleefully as she thanked him and hopped to the empty seat next to Charlie. Douglas was envious at the scene. In fact, he had wanted his granddaughter to sit next to Master Wade, but his hesitation encouraged Aurora to cut the queue and grab the empty seat. It was quite impossible to make Zyla Master Wade's wife, but it would be an absolute honor and blessing if Master Wade would keep Zyla as his student and apprentice. This was because of Charlie's superb medical skills, which were even better than his own ancestral medical skills. Therefore, he felt that it would be great if Zyla was fortunate enough to serve Charlie in the future, as she would have the opportunity to learn more about medicine from him. This was also one of the reasons why he had wanted to bring Zyla along for this dinner. Of course, the second reason was that he wanted to seek treatment from Charlie. He had already been tortured by his internal injuries for more than half his life, but he finally had the opportunity to get healed now. As he thought about this, Douglas gave Zyla a long look, hinting to her that she should look for an opportunity to get closer to Charlie. Zyla understood her grandfather's intentions immediately, and her cheeks turned crimson red as she felt extremely embarrassed. Lowering her head, she could feel a strong wave in her heart. From time to time, she raised her head slightly to look at Charlie as she squeezed her palms together. Charlie was the most talented and skillful doctor she had ever seen. He was not only a genius, but he was also superior to others in terms of his character and appearance. It would not be an exaggeration to describe him as a rare gem in this world. However, Zyla knew very well that she would never be worthy of someone like Charlie. Aside from Zyla, Aurora and Warnia were also staring intensely at Charlie, and their gazes were set on him, their eyes never moving away from him. Charlie did not realize that the three young women were all staring at him, and he simply looked up at everyone and raised his cup. After that, he smiled before saying, "Everyone, it is truly fate that allowed me to get to know each and every one of you here in Oris Hill. We should get to know one another better during this banquet today. Who knows if I would need any of your help in Oris Hill in the future?" As soon as he raised his cup, the crowd around the table also lifted their cups because they did not want to be slow. Warnia hurriedly replied, "Mr. Wade, you are being too polite. Do not hesitate to let us know if you need any of our help in the future. We will definitely help you if we can." Douglas also spoke up at this time. "Yes, Mr. Wade, your medical skills are simply superb, and I truly admire you very much. If you have any requests or instructions in the future, I will definitely get it done for you." Charlie smiled faintly before he said, "Okay, let's make this glass of wine count. Mr. Wade, cheers!" Everyone drank the glass of wine together, and no one dared to put down the wine glass before Charlie did. After Charlie had finally put down his wine glass, he took out a box that he had brought along with him. Everyone stopped all their movements and stared at the box, filled with excitement. They knew that the item in the box had to be the magical pills that everyone was thinking about. Charlie looked around at the crowd of people before he spoke again. "This is the medicine that I made this time." Sure enough, everyone was extremely excited. They could not wait to see the medicine that Charlie had concocted this time. Opening the box slowly, Charlie revealed the 10 pills nestled inside the box. Upon doing so, he said lightly, "Everyone, these are the pills that I have concocted this time, and it is at least 10 times more effective than the previous pills." 10 times? Everyone exclaimed in shock. They would have been satisfied with the same magical pill as last time, but who would have expected Charlie to make a pill that was 10 times more effective than the previous one? At this time, Charlie spoke up again. "I dare not say that this medicine will revive the dead or turn the living into an immortal, but I know that this pill will be able to strengthen your physical body, prolong your life, and cure diseases. If you are breathing your last breath, you will be able to live a few more years after taking this medicine. However, you should be extremely cautious when taking this pill. Do not take the entire pill in one go because it might be too strong for your body to handle." Everyone was really surprised. How could this medicine possibly be so amazing? The pill that Charlie was holding in his hand was simply the medicine that he had concocted according to the prescription in the 9 Heavens Profound book. However, it was making everyone extremely excited. The crowd of people waited patiently as they stared at the crystal-clear pills in the box, and they could feel their accelerated breathing. Amongst these people, Douglas was the oldest, and he was the most excited. This was because he knew that Charlie had a very unusual talent that even he could not comprehend at all. He had been suffering from a serious internal injury that had not been fully healed, and this internal injury had caused him to suffer from illnesses and bad health for more than half of his life. The last time he had tried some of the pills made by Charlie, his symptoms had improved a lot, even though he had not been fully cured. When he heard that the effect of this new medicine would be 10 times more effective than the pill that he had tried previously, Douglas could not contain his excitement any longer. After all, he would finally be able to heal his old wounds and internal injuries that had plagued him for more than half of his life. If Charlie's magic medicine could truly relieve him of all his ailments, that would be the best thing that had ever happened to him. Warnia was also brimming with excitement. Even though Charlie had already saved her grandfather by performing acupuncture for him, her grandfather's body was still very weak physically. If he were to live longer, he would have to rely on Charlie's magical pill to sustain him and give him strength. At this time, Warnia stared at the magical pills before she stared at Charlie with a set of very intense eyes. Graham was also very excited, almost yelling out in joy because he would be getting 2 of Charlie's magical pills today. Charlie continued speaking. "There are some problems that cannot be easily overcome by modern medicine nowadays, such as diabetes, kidney failure, and other malignant diseases. However, I assure you that if you are suffering from any of these diseases, you will be cured by taking this pill." Everyone was even more shocked when they heard Charlie's words. Even though the diseases that Charlie had just mentioned were very common, these were difficult diseases that could not even be cured by modern medicine, even if they sought treatment abroad from the best doctors. This was especially so for a disease such as diabetes, which was commonly referred to as undead cancer, because there was absolutely no cure for it. However, Charlie was saying that his medicine would cure all of these diseases. This was simply a miracle. Everyone could only sigh because Charlie was indeed a genius. Aurora's beautiful face flushed crimson red as she blushed, and her bright, sparkling eyes were fixed on Charlie. She knew that she had to seize the opportunity to get closer to Charlie because he was really one of a kind. Zyla was also looking at Charlie with a look of admiration in her eyes. Charlie's skills and abilities were something that she could never imagine in her life. She was certain that she would be able to cause a huge sensation in the entire medical world if she could just learn some trivial medical skills and knowledge from Charlie. Charlie could tell that everyone was already eager to receive the pills at this time, so he smiled faintly before he said, "All right then, let me distribute the pills." Everyone could no longer contain their excitement, full of expectations. Charlie stood up as he took out one of the pills before handing it to the oldest guest, Douglas, as he said, "Mr. Simmons, this is for you." Douglas was trembling all over, and he knelt as he held his hands respectfully over his head as he said humbly, "Mr. Wade, thank you for the medicine. You are truly a very kind person, and I will definitely do everything that I can for you in this lifetime. Thank you, Mr. Wade." Charlie smiled before saying, "Mr. Simmons, you are too polite. I believe that both of us were fated to meet." After saying that, he placed the pill in Douglas's hand. Douglas was so grateful that tears started welling up in his eyes. When he thought about how he had been tortured and tormented by his illness for more than half of his life, he subconsciously wanted to pop the pill into his mouth to free himself from the pain completely. Charlie stopped him immediately and said, "Mr. Simmons, this medicine is too strong for you. You should only take half of the capsule to cure your old injury and illness. You should keep the remaining half of the capsule because it can prove to be of great use to you in the future." Douglas was shocked because he really could not believe that he could be cured with just half of this pill. This was utterly amazing. As he thought about it, Douglas took out the dagger that he kept in his pocket and cut the pill in half. After that, he put one half of the pill into his mouth immediately. Everyone stared at him intently as they waited for a miracle to happen. A few seconds after Douglas had eaten the pill, color returned to his face immediately, and his complexion turned pinkish in an instant. He also began sweating profusely. Douglas could feel a warm and magical current running through his body now. He felt that his body was akin to the dried-up, mottled, and cracked earth, and this warm and magical current was mild, clean water which was filling up and nourishing all the cracks in the cracked earth at the moment. He could feel his old and stubborn wound slowly repairing itself, and his eyes widened in disbelief. "Mr. Wade, this pill is truly amazing. My old injury and illness have plagued me for decades, but I am completely healed in a mere few minutes." Douglas burst into tears immediately. In recent years, he had been tortured by his illness and had already collapsed a couple of times. He did not want to stop treating people, but whenever he treated people, he was also putting them in danger because he could drop dead any time. Therefore, he had truly been living a painful life. However, he was now completely cured after eating half of Charlie's pill. If this was not amazing, there would be no other words to describe this. Grateful. Douglas knelt before Charlie as he continued weeping. "Mr. Wade, you are indeed the greatest man that I have ever met in this world. If you do not despise me, I would like to treat you as my father and teacher." After suffering and going through so much pain because of his illness, no one would understand the excitement that he was feeling because he had finally recovered and would not need to go through all the ups and downs any longer. Everyone could not help but feel even more admiration for Charlie when they saw Douglas recovering on the spot. This pill was worth much more than tens of thousands of gold bars. They would not even sell it to anyone. Charlie looked at Douglas before he helped him up to his feet and said, "Mr. Simmons, I understand what you are feeling, and I am thankful to be of help to you. However, I hope that you will not kneel to me so casually in the future, as you are still my elder after all." Douglas hurriedly replied, "How could I not show how grateful I am to you when you are my benefactor?" Charlie did not continue speaking when he saw how stubborn Douglas was. After that, Charlie turned around and looked at Warnia as he held the box of pills in his hand. "Miss Song, this medicine is for Lord Song." Jasmine hurriedly knelt before Charlie, and just as Douglas had done before, she raised her hands above her head. "Thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you for the pill and your kindness to the Song family. We will never forget what you have done for us." Charlie nodded and smiled before he took out 2 pills, hiding one in his sleeve while placing the other pill in Warnia's hands. Warnia was very excited and happy when she received the pill and was about to carefully put the pill away when she felt another round object rolling into her palms. She chuckled as she looked up at Charlie, who was staring at her with a smile on his face. After that, he winked at her, and Warnia understood what he meant immediately. Charlie was giving her an extra pill, and he wanted her to be discreet about it. Warnia was very happy and touched at this time. She would never have imagined that Charlie would give her 2 pills. Besides, he had given her the second pill secretly. Did that mean that he was giving the second pill to her, and not her grandfather? To be honest, giving another pill to Warnia meant nothing to Charlie at all. However, this was of great significance to Warnia. At this time, Warnia felt extremely touched and moved by Charlie's action, and she felt that he was protecting and looking out for her. As Warnia continued to stare at Charlie, he walked up to Zeke before holding out a pill. "Mr. White, this pill is for you." Zeke shuddered all over, and he quickly knelt like everyone else as he waited respectfully. Charlie placed the pill in his hand, and Zeke blurted out, "Thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you for the medicine. I will unquestionably obey all of your orders in the future." As he stared at Zeke, who was kneeling on the ground, he said lightly, "Mr. White, your son and nephew have caused me a lot of grievances and anger in the past. If it were not for you, they would not be in this world anymore." Zeke chuckled as he hurriedly replied, "Thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you for your mercy and kindness." Charlie simply replied, "Make sure that the younger generation in your family learns how to behave and act like a decent human in the future." Zeke nodded hurriedly. "Don't worry, Mr. Wade. I will definitely give them a warning." "Okay." Charlie nodded slightly before he continued. "Keep the medicine well. It might be able to save your life in the future." Zeke's face flushed with excitement as he held the pill in his hand. "Mr. Wade, do not hesitate to ask me for anything if you need the White family's help in the future." After that, it was Graham's turn. Charlie had already promised to give Aurora 2 pills. Therefore, he gave 1 pill to Graham and another to Aurora. Both father and daughter knelt before Charlie immediately. Graham quickly thanked Charlie as he expressed his gratitude. "Mr. Wade, my family will always look up to you and do all that we can for you in the future." Charlie smiled slightly before he nodded in satisfaction. It seemed as though Charlie had already given the pill to everyone present, but suddenly he thought of something and called out loud, "Orvel, come in!" Orvel Hong, who had been guarding the door all this while, came in and asked, "Mr. Wade, what can I do for you?" Orvel placed his hands in front of himself as he respectfully spoke to Charlie. Charlie nodded slightly before he smiled and said, "The both of us have already known each other for quite some time, and I sincerely respect your hard work and diligence. Therefore, I have also prepared 1 pill for you today." Orvel was stunned when he heard Charlie's words. He felt as though his head was going to explode. He had been waiting outside the door the entire time and had heard what Charlie had said about the effects of the medicine. Moreover, he knew about Douglas's instant recovery as soon as the latter had taken the medicine. However, Orvel knew very well that someone of his status would never be able to get his hands on such medicine. After all, why would Charlie give such a precious pill to someone like him? He would have never expected Charlie to give one of these pills to him. When he heard that Charlie was going to give him one of the pills, he knelt before him without any hesitation whatsoever. "Mr. Wade, I am just a rough person, and I do not know how to give a beautiful speech. However, I can promise to serve you for the rest of my life, and I will even walk through fire for you." Orvel was so touched that he could not stop himself from kneeling and thanking Charlie continuously as he took the pill from him respectfully. He was so excited and treated the pill as though it was a priceless treasure. Charlie waved his hand as he said, "Okay, don't worry. Just make sure to help me whenever I ask for your help in the future. I will not forget your contribution." Orvel quickly replied, "I will never let you down." When everyone saw Charlie giving the magical pill to Orvel, they were all shocked beyond words. Even though Orvel had a reputation as one of the top mobster bosses in Oris Hill, he was nothing to them. Hence, they could barely believe that Charlie would not hesitate to give someone as insignificant as Orvel the pill simply because they knew each other. This, Charlie really treated his own people very fairly. Orville continued kneeling in front of Charlie as he wept. Mr. Wade, I really did not expect someone like you to even think of someone as insignificant as me at all. I am truly very grateful for your kindness. Charlie smiled before he replied, Orville, to me, everyone in this world is equal. I do not judge a person by their status or identity, but I judge a person based on their character and personality. Do you remember my classmate, Stephen? In terms of status or even strength, he is definitely more inferior compared to you and your brothers. However, when he was lying in the hospital and could not even commit suicide, I still helped and protected him. Why? Simply because he is my friend. If you are my friend, no matter how low your status or identity is, I will never forget you. Orville's heart trembled, and he could not stop the tears from rolling down his cheeks. He choked as he said, Mr. Wade, I will do everything to the best of my ability for you in the future. Charlie placed the pill in Orville's hand before saying, If you follow me, you have to understand that you don't need to be the greatest person in this country. As long as you do everything for me sincerely and with all of your heart, I will surely protect and look out for you for the rest of my life. Charlie meant what he said. He had endless wealth. He had tens of billions in cash, and his company was worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Moreover, in terms of strength, Charlie could rely on them to give him extraordinary skills and strength. Therefore, as long as Orville steadfastly followed him, he would not let him suffer. Charlie's words made everyone present have even more admiration and respect for him. They were determined to follow after Charlie with all of their hearts. At this time, Zeke took out a smart bracelet key before holding it out to Charlie. Mr. Wade, this is the smart bracelet key for the Bugatti Veyron Hermes Special Edition that I have already ordered for you. You can pick up the car at the auto showroom when it is officially launched tomorrow. The ordinary Bugatti Veyron was priced at $26 million, whereas the Hermes Special Edition was priced at $40 million. Before Charlie could say anything, Graham quickly took out another smart bracelet key before saying in a hurry, What a coincidence, Mr. Wade! I also ordered a sports car for you, and it is waiting for you to collect it from the auto showroom. I bought you a limited edition 177 Aston Martin. The Aston Martin 177 was priced at $40 million. Both Zeke and Graham would not have expected such a coincidence. Zeke looked at Graham with an annoyed expression on his face before he blurted out, Graham, why did you get Mr. Wade a sports car just like me? Are you trying to copy me on purpose? Graham replied confidently, Why would I want to copy you? I simply thought that Mr. Wade should be driving the best sports car in town. That is the reason why I specifically ordered the Aston Martin 177 for him. When Douglas saw that both of them were giving gifts to Charlie one after the other, he quickly took out a yellow sandalwood box and placed it in front of Charlie. Upon opening the box, there lay a very beautiful pair of wine glasses made of porcelain. Douglas told Charlie immediately, Mr. Wade, these wine glasses have been handed down by my ancestors ever since the Ming Dynasty, and it is one of my favorite antiques. I want to give this to you today, and I hope that you will enjoy using it, Mr. Wade. When Warnia saw everyone else giving gifts to Charlie, she did not dare to fall behind, since she had already received 2 magical pills from Charlie. Therefore, she quickly took out her checkbook and wrote a cash check before offering it to Charlie. Mr. Wade, this is a cash check for $100 million. Please accept this as a small token of my appreciation. Charlie honestly did not expect that these people would unexpectedly give him all these gifts. Moreover, the gifts that they were giving him were extremely expensive. Both sports cars cost at least $40 million each. The wine glasses from the Ming Dynasty were worth more than $50 to $60 million. Moreover, Warnia even wrote him a check for $100 million. To be honest, Charlie felt very indifferent toward all these gifts. First of all, a sports car was too showy, and he did not really like that. He did not like the wine glasses all that much either because he rarely used things like that. As for the money, the last thing he needed in life was money. However, when Charlie saw that the 4 of them were filled with so many expectations as they were eager for him to accept their gifts, Charlie thought for a moment before accepting their gifts indifferently. Okay, I will accept these gifts. Thank you. Since they wanted to thank him and follow in his footsteps, he should accept their gifts. When everyone saw that Charlie was willing to accept their gifts, they smiled in relief. Charlie casually stuffed the $100 million check and the 2 smart bracelet keys into his pocket before putting the box of wine glasses aside. After that, he said lightly, "All right, let's eat now." Everyone hurriedly replied, "Eat, let's eat." Just then, Orville stood and said, "Mr. Wade, I will continue to keep guard outside the door." Charlie nodded without asking him to stay. This was because he knew that the people seated around the table would not be able to accept it if Orville were to have dinner with them. After all, no matter how good his character or personality was, Orville was still a mobster boss, whereas the rest of them were all one of the richest or wealthiest people in town. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After dinner, Charlie declined Warnia's offer to send him home and decided to walk home alone instead. Warnia thanked him once again before driving her limited-edition Bentley back to her villa. As she gripped the steering wheel with one hand and the 2 magical pills in her other hand, Warnia wondered whether she should give both of the pills to her grandfather, or whether she should keep one of the pills for herself. If she gave both the pills to her grandfather, she would feel a little depressed because she would be missing out on this magical pill herself. However, if she kept one of the magical pills for herself, she could not help but wonder if her grandfather would be furious if he found out about it in the future. After putting some thought into it, the desire to possess the magical pill for herself overcame all the other worries in her mind. Warnia carefully put the magical pill into the glove compartment in her car as she decided to hold on to the second pill first. If she needed it in the future, she would use it. If she had no use for it but her grandfather needed it, she would give it to him then. When that time came, and if Warnia successfully saved her grandfather's life twice with the magical pill, she believed that he would surely treat her differently. After she had arrived back at the villa, Lord Song was lying on the sofa as he eagerly awaited Warnia's return. When Charlie had come to his house previously, he did not manage to improve the physical condition of his body, even though he had managed to save his life. He was still feeling rather fragile and sickly. After several days of rest, he was starting to feel slightly better, but he still needed someone to help him if he needed to stand up or walk. For an arrogant and proud man like him, the physical inconvenience was one of his biggest regrets in life. Therefore, he was really pinning all of his hopes on the magical pill concocted by Mr. Wade to regain his health and agility. If Warnia was able to bring back the magical pill, Lord Song felt that he would surely be able to get rid of all his current trouble and ailment, and he would be able to regain the feeling of being as strong as he was 10 or 20 years ago as soon as he had eaten the medicine that Charlie had prepared. When Warnia came into the living room with the magical pill in her hand, Lord Song struggled to sit upright as he asked in a trembling voice, "Warnia, did Mr. Wade give you the medicine?" Warnia nodded before handing the pill over to her grandfather. "Grandpa, this is the pill that Mr. Wade has concocted this time. You should take it as soon as possible." "Good, good," Lord Song repeated it several times in excitement. "Did Mr. Simmons take the pill?" "Yes, he took it," Warnia replied. "Mr. Simmons only ate half of the pill according to Mr. Wade's prescription. However, even with just one half of the pill, all of his old injuries and illnesses were cured immediately. It was simply amazing." Lord Song became very excited when he heard her words. "That's amazing! Hurry, bring me a glass of water. I want to take the medicine now." The maid hurriedly brought him a cup of warm water. All the members of the Song family stood in front of the old man because they were all curious to witness the miraculous healing moment. In fact, all the descendants of the Song family hoped that the old man would be able to live for a few more years, so that he would be able to continue protecting and looking out for them. Therefore, they sincerely hoped that the old man's health and physical condition would improve greatly after taking the magical pill. The old man quickly swallowed the pill with the warm water. After taking the pill, Lord Song could immediately feel a burst of energy sweeping through all the meridians in his entire body. Lord Song felt as though someone was repeatedly injecting him with a burst of energy, and he tried to stand up without relying on his wooden cane. Everyone around him was very anxious as they were afraid that the old man would fall. Therefore, they were all prepared to step forward and catch him if he fell. Unexpectedly, the old man stood up effortlessly. He did not need to use any strength or force, and he stood up without shaking at all. Lord Song could feel a surge of power in his legs, and he immediately summoned the courage to start walking. He took his first step forward without any hesitation at all. No hurry, no panic, no tiredness, no rush, no shaking, and no breathlessness at all. Everyone was shocked by this. Wasn't he a dying man just a few days ago? He looked like a middle-aged person now. Lord Song quickly regained his strength and control over his own body. He was so excited and quickly tried to walk a few more steps, and each of his steps was fast and steady. This made him extremely excited, and he laughed as he exclaimed, "This is amazing! This is simply amazing! Mr. Wade really is a god!" Then Lord Song turned around to face Warnia as he said seriously, "Warnia, if I can get a good son-in-law like Mr. Wade, I will be able to live at least until I am 100 years old. Your father, uncle, brother, and yourself will also be able to live a long and healthy life. Once our family can live up to 100 years old for 3 consecutive generations, we will be a very strong family that cannot be shaken at all." Warnia was stunned. Her grandfather was a dying man, but Charlie had saved his life. Even after saving his life, her grandfather had still been very sick and exhausted. Yet as soon as her grandfather had taken the medicine prepared by Charlie, it seemed as though he was 20 years younger in an instant. It would not be surprising if her grandfather lived for another 20 years. By that time, he would have become a centenarian. How many centenarians were there in this world? Very few. Moreover, if the head of a wealthy and prestigious family could live beyond 100 years old, it would be very good fortune for the family because the family would be able to grow under his guidance. As soon as the head of the family died, there would immediately be fallouts and internal fights amongst the members of the family. There had been so many cases where families fell apart after the head of the family passed away because the descendants could not agree with one another. Thanks to Charlie, the Song family would be able to continue prospering for at least another 20 years. That night, everyone who received the magical pill from Charlie could not sleep at all. Warnia, who personally witnessed the miracle happening to her grandfather, was also very excited. When she thought about the magical pill that Charlie had given to her secretly, she could feel a warm current surging through her heart. She would never be able to forget Charlie's kindness and generosity toward her. At this time, Aurora, the hot and spicy pepper of the Quinton family, was also having insomnia as she thought about Charlie. After her father had received the 2 magical pills from Charlie, he had immediately given one of the pills to her as soon as they had gotten home. After that, Graham had told her to hide the precious pill well. Therefore, Aurora kept the pill close to her, and her body temperature and fragrance were already imprinted on the pill. Aurora was filled with happiness when she thought about the fact that this pill was given to her by Charlie. Meanwhile, Charlie, the man behind all of this, was currently lying on the floor next to his wife's bed as he had a really good night's sleep as someone's son-in-law. Claire headed to her studio early the next morning. After so many days of preparation, her studio was finally complete and officially ready to open. Charlie offered to help her many times, but she wanted to build up her own business with her own 2 hands. Charlie completely understood her feelings. After leaving the Wilson family, Claire had been thinking about how she could finally prove herself so that the Wilson family would not be able to look down on them. At this time, Charlie was neatly dressed as he headed out to the market to buy some groceries. After putting his hand into his pocket, he was suddenly reminded of all the gifts that everyone had given to him last night. 2 smart bracelet keys for luxury sports cars, a pair of antique wine glasses, and a check for $100 million. Since the antique wine glasses were placed in a relatively large sandalwood box, Charlie placed the box inside his closet. Initially, he had thought of placing the smart bracelet keys and the cash check for $100 million into his closet, but he had given up on the idea after some consideration. This was because he knew that his mother-in-law would come into their bedroom and look around when she had nothing better to do. The last time Graham had given him the jade bracelet, Elaine had taken it and worn it herself even before Claire had had the chance to do so. If his mother-in-law were to find out about the $100 million cash check and the smart bracelet key for the 2 luxury sports cars, she would unquestionably try to claim it for herself. Most importantly, Charlie would not know how to explain himself if she found out about it. The $100 million check would be enough to scare her to death 3 times. Therefore, Charlie decided to bring the smart bracelet keys and the check with him as he headed to the vegetable market. As he was making his way to the market, Graham made a phone call to him before asking, "Mr. Wade, did you like the sports car I gave you?" "Oh," Charlie replied, "I have not seen it yet." Graham quickly responded, "The car is at the Oris Hill Convention and Exhibition Center. If it is not convenient for you to go there, I can get someone to send the car to your house instead." Charlie replied, "No, please do not send it to my house. I will make time to check it out at the exhibition center." The neighborhood that Charlie was currently living in was very ordinary, and each of the houses there was worth only $2 to $3 million. There would certainly be a huge commotion if there were two sports cars that were worth more than $40 million each parked in the neighborhood. Therefore, Charlie felt that he should park the sports cars in the villa at Thompson First instead, since he would not need to worry as they had a private basement parking in the villa. After arriving at the vegetable market, Charlie received a phone call from Stephen, his good friend from university. Stephen asked him over the phone, "Charlie, where are you?" Charlie replied, "I am shopping in the vegetable market." "What's wrong, Stephen? Do you need my help?" Stephen was a little hesitant as he said, "Well, I came to the Oris International Auto Show today." Charlie knew that Stephen was a fan of cars, and cars were one of his favorite things in this world. When he was still in college, he had saved up a month of his living expenses just so that he could go out of town to watch the auto show. Charlie smiled before he asked, "Did you go there to see cars again?" "Yes," Stephen replied before he said, "This time there are several world-class limited edition sports cars on display. It would be a rare opportunity for me to take a look at the cars." After that, Stephen continued speaking. "Oh, by the way, I did not call you to tell you about cars." Charlie replied, "Why are you looking for me then?" Stephen hesitated for a moment before he said, "Well, I was just walking around the exhibition hall when I saw your wife." "My wife?" Charlie asked in surprise. "Why did she go to the auto show?" "I do not know either," Stephen replied immediately. "She was with another man. That's the reason why I decided to call you to ask whether you knew about this." Charlie frowned immediately. Why was Claire at the auto show with another man? Why hadn't she told him about it? Although both of them did not communicate much, they would tell each other about their daily plans. However, Claire did not tell him that she was going to the auto show with another man. Was she hiding something from him? Even though Charlie was the young master of the Wade family, and even though he was well respected by many wealthy and powerful men in Oris Hill, he still lacked confidence in his relationship with Claire. He was also worried that Claire would succumb to temptation. After keeping silent for a moment, Charlie quickly said, "Thank you for informing me, Stephen." Stephen replied, "Charlie, my mom just called me to go home to deal with some family issues. I have to go back home now. I think you should come and keep an eye on Claire." "Okay," Charlie replied. "I will look for you later. You should go and get busy already." After hanging up the phone, Charlie parked his car at the side of the road before hailing a cab to the Oris Hill Convention and Exhibition Center. The Oris Hill Convention and Exhibition Center was a large-scale real estate project specializing in undertaking various exhibitions. Most of the large-scale exhibitions in Oris Hill would always be held here. After entering the exhibition hall, Charlie looked around and realized that he was surrounded by many ordinary citizens who were here to look at cars. The surrounding platforms were all filled with various luxury cars. The first car that Charlie saw was the Audi A8, and there were many other luxury cars in the exhibition hall, including luxury sports cars such as Lamborghini and Ferrari. The highest platform was located at the center of the exhibition hall, and there was one red and one black luxury sports car sitting on top of the platform. These two sports cars were the ones given to Charlie by Zeke and Graham, an Aston Martin 177 and a Bugatti Veyron Hermes edition. These two super luxurious cars were the highlight of the auto show, and many people and reporters were surrounding the cars at this time. There were also two strong and tough-looking security guards standing beside the cars at this time. The security guards stood at the front and back of the luxury sports cars so that the crowd of people would not be able to touch the expensive cars. The host began introducing the cars at this time. "These two cars have already been sold. Therefore, it is a personal item. You can look and you can also take pictures of the cars, but you are not allowed to touch the cars. Thank you for your cooperation." At this time, a reporter asked, "The auto show has just begun and the two cars have already been sold. Is it convenient for you to reveal who these two rich men who bought the cars are?" The host smiled before he replied, "We are not talking about two rich men. In fact, one rich man owns both of the cars here." "One!" the reporter exclaimed in disbelief. "The two luxury sports cars were bought by the same person?" "Yes." The host nodded before he said with a smile, "These two cars belong to the same man."